right. I haven't been able to find any specific details about campaigns.
I said, hold on a second.
Oh.
And now you're screwing up the intro. My intro to the show. It's the after show, guys. Great. Started. Go ahead.
Anyway. Build'em is asking about. Oh, you know what? We've got the Nebrosity. Let's get this in. Kick it off to begin with, and then we can pick up the rest afterward. And oh man, poor Lake replaced by chat.
Done.
All right. The Nebrosity. Before you pop in, please make sure to mute the show. That way, we do not get the feedback that we get every time, even after we say this to people. And then, yeah, we'll unmute you.
Do it.
All right. Should we give him a couple of seconds, or just?
I'm not paying attention. I'm putting it on YouTube as I usually do at this time.
All right. Here we go. All right, the Nebrosity, you're on the show.
What's up, guys?
Ah, look at that. The first perfect caller. I love it.
Man. All right, so let's see. You had a couple of topics that we touched on a little bit last week, but I'm sure you've taken the time, refined your perspective, and would like to contribute. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just, hello everyone. Hi, thenebrosity on the forums, Gaming Exports on Twitch, but, right, to that plug. But,
wow.
Seriously, congrats on getting that plug, right, in that last Crowns and Crows, or video.
That's why you're in the after show, sir.
Right?
No one watches this on YouTube.
But no, well, I just wanted to touch a little bit on some of the points that were missed, I feel, and a couple of others on the forums feel were missed when it came to talking about multi-boxing and multi-clienting, which are two separate things. But I just wanted to see what you guys were thinking as far as some of the restrictions that were being placed on people, blocking them from multi-clienting and blocking them from being able to bring in multiple characters from one account into a single campaign.
Okay.
You want me to talk about that? I mean, like, basically, they're limiting right now one client right now per connection. Essentially, you can't multi-client, as I guess you call it, or whatever. I don't think you really ever want to multi-box in this game because it's all Twitch-based. I don't think you can really do that effectively. The one character per campaign. Me and Valor talked about this, I think, 2 shows ago. Was it 2 shows ago, Valor?
Yeah. Well, no, it was 1 show ago, but 2 weeks ago.
Right. Okay. So basically, we don't like the idea of having multiple characters in the same campaign because you can easily exploit scouting and positioning and defense. If you have 2 good characters, you can have one always attacking and one always defending. You just have to log out. So some of our solutions were there is you can only have the easiest one character per campaign. You're done. Or you can always switch your characters in, but it's on a 7-day lockout timer or something like that. Or you can have as many as you want. In order to switch, it takes 10 minutes of character swap or something like that. And then we had some crazy ideas, which I don't think we really need to go into because they're kind of fun, but made the game more complicated. Did that cover everything, real quick?
Yeah, I guess. Anything you gotta say, Valen?
I mean, I'm here to respond to what you've got to contribute. So, take it and run with it.
What were your major disagreements with everything?
Well, just to kind of touch on what you're speaking about, because I guess that's kind of what the attitude is on the forums, where I can get a little bit of feedback from you guys. I can hear you typing. But as far as some of the negative things that some people mention on some of the threads, and I think there's like a 20-page thread on the forums right now regarding this, and a couple of others that were mentioning it, was exactly what you mentioned, where people would exploit getting on another character and scouting the enemies and effectively having a spy character. But the thing is, that's something that people are already going to be doing via just purchasing multiple accounts.
Sure.
And my argument was...
Can't stop that.
You can't stop it, right? So... my argument was to, instead of just allowing this to be like a pay-to-win advantage, if you would, if you have more money, just buy more accounts, reduce the pay-to-win advantage of having multiple accounts by allowing everyone to be able to use multiple characters per account in a single campaign.
Okay.
Well, I mean, how many people do you think are actually going to be using multiple accounts, on using VPNs or whatever kind of block that you might have to go around? There's not that many people that are going to be using that stuff. And if you want to go spend all that money on extra stuff for scouting, whatever, I don't think it's going to affect the game on a broad level.
Well, aside from just that issue, because I just was addressing what you were talking about, exploding scouting and spies, there's just the general concern that almost everyone would probably have, and a lot of people are mentioning already, things that they want to do but don't know that they can't do on the forums, where it's like, oh, well, I want to have an invisible class or something like a stealth class, which a lot of the Obsidian crowd is like, oh, if you're going to make a character, you have to be stealth. And I spoke to a couple of their members, and they're like, yeah, I'm really down for it, and I'm also looking forward to playing this class. Well, under the current rules, you have to choose one or the other. I'm pretty sure Obsidian is not going to be spreading themselves out amongst all the different campaigns that they're going to be running at one time. They're going to be focusing on, in the beginning at least one or two campaigns. And if you go along with what the rules are for them, or if you go along with, just aside from guild play, if you just enjoy playing a mage today, maybe you don't want to play a mage today, you want to play and switch over to your melee character or something.
Yeah. So this was one of the things that is a fun conversation that we did touch on a little bit was people want to be able to play a variety of characters, and the thing that I brought up as what I think is a workable solution to that is your account is bound to a single location with a single bank. So if you log in any particular character that you log into a campaign, you are logging in to the same spot, you're logging in with the same equipment, and you're logging in with the same bank access that you had. So it would prevent people from being able to just log out accounts all over the place. And by accounts, I'm sorry. They're able to log out alts all over the place, and they could be out sieging somebody else comes in to siege them, they just log in their alt that's been hanging out there, max everything, has all the gear and everything on it, and they just boom, bam, they're right back there. They've got the all their gear, they're ready to go, and there's no penalty at all for them being across the map, leaving their base undefended.
Well, I guess when it comes down to that specifically, because if you're talking about, let's say, multi-boxing, where you have multiple clients in the same computer or the same machine, and you can log in both of those accounts, I can kind of see how that would be a downside and kind of go around some of the spirit of the game, where you want people to actually travel from one side of the map to the next.
Yeah. There's no teleporting in campaigns. They've not talked about any sort of teleportation. Resources and everything have all been...
Yeah, I kind of get that, but the thing is that people are still going to be doing that anyway, regardless.
The point is how many people are going to be doing it. That's the whole thing. I mean, if you allow multiple characters in the campaign, you're going to have a ridiculous amount of people having now. It's now is an arms race, because one a box gives you the ability to have 3 characters in a campaign. You can do all this scouting, whatever. So now people that are playing hardcore or whatever are going to be expected to have 3 characters up at all times, and it's not going to make the game fun for a lot of people. And that goes from, in a guild like Valor, where they have tons of people playing. You can go and say, if you want to play with us, you need to have 3 characters, and you have to be geared up and ready to go at every single point, and be whatever, because you can tell people how to play that way. However, Valor's guild, the guild leader can't go and say everybody has to purchase 3 boxes for this game, have 3 VIP subscriptions, and have a VPN, and get an extra computer to run it, and all this other stuff, because no one's going to want to do that and spend all that extra money. Some people can't. So, I mean, there's a vast difference between, saying, well, anybody can run multiple clients or whatever, you can't stop it, so let's just allow everybody to do it, is because you have to limit it as much as possible so it's not prevalent in your game. That's the whole point, I think, the way they're going about it.
Well, like I said, I can see the cons to allowing people to be logged in multiple locations at the same time, multi-clienting, right? But let's just forget about that part of it. I mean, that is something that is a concern. That is a concern, right?
You forget about the reason not to do it.
There's that concern. But
sure.
Let's say, aside from multi-clienting, so let's say they don't change the rules regarding the multiple clients on one computer, right? So let's say that stays, right? Well, the benefits to having multiple accounts is you can just log out of, let's say, your Centaur for the day, and just log into your Mage account for the rest of the evening because you just don't feel like playing a
It's a
Centaur.
valid point though, because that Valor brought up the boredom factor on the whole thing, and I think what the way to get around that is you can have multiple characters in the same campaign, and like I said initially, I think you could just have to have like a cooldown on character swap. So you can only have one character in the campaign at once, but if you wanted to swap one dude out for another one because you got tired of playing your Centaur, then once a week you can bring in a new character and it gets reset. That's basically it. I think that's the easiest solution to it.
Yeah.
I guess I would say that that's probably a solution that might appeal to some people. Personally, it wouldn't appeal to me because I can just buy a second account and just switch right then and there.
Then
And-
buy a
but
fucking
that's-
second account, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus
There you
Christ.
go.
Exactly.
Just fucking
I
do
know,
it.
I know, right?
That's the
I'm just
point,
saying-
though, is if you don't like that restriction, which the restriction is there to prevent abuse, if you don't like that restriction, then you can buy a second account. And
that's
one
what
of
I'm
one of the
saying.
things that
So-
you brought up was how that sets a balance and a pay to win expectation, which to some degree there's some validity there. I mean,
You're not going to be able to get around it. That's the whole thing. And the whole point is, I'm sorry for interrupting, is basically
No, you're not. I appreciate you pretending that.
no, I do. It's just the whole point is you want to restrict the how prevalent it is in your game. So you have a barrier of entry to playing multiple characters and multiple the single campaign is you have to buy more accounts. So is it really worth spending an extra what is a box, $50 to do that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And then, if you want to do passive leveling, then you're spending $15 a month on VIP as well for a second account. So, I mean, you're looking at, initial. Well, Nebrosity, you said you're going to have a couple accounts regardless. So, I mean, you've already made the investment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're in on this regardless. I mean, you don't. I mean, in reality, allowing you to be able to play multiple alts in a single campaign would actually give you the ability to play 6 actively passively trained alts in a single campaign as opposed to 3. So that actually by simply just that, I mean, no matter what you do, it's going to create imbalance.
And I think it's awesome. I think you should be able to do it.
Yeah.
It's not going to change anything because A, you can't stop it. B, Ace makes more money off of you buying more boxes and more subscription, which makes me, with a single account, have a game to play. And C, I don't have enough time or care to go that deep into a game managing 3 accounts. I can barely handle an alt on a character rather outside of having 3 accounts. So I don't want to do it, but if you want to do it, that's fine. The thing is, how many other people are going to be doing that? Not many.
I think it's going to be like the meta. You have to. I'm looking at it from a Shadowbane player's perspective.
It's not going to
in
be.
the sense of you don't want to have the problem in Shadowbane. Which was a lot of people's they felt like Shadowbane was not friendly to new players and stuff was because eventually you got to the point where you were afraid of having spies in your guild. You didn't want to have too many people in your guild because you're not fighting monsters and just able to farm them all the time. You're fighting for resources that are limited that could only be split amongst your best players or ideally amongst your best players. So what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to end up seeing smaller guilds that have the ability to adapt to what's on the battlefield via having multiple accounts. I'm not saying that that's going to be everyone's going to have to do it.
So
but the
I
guilds
I see where you're going with this.
Well, let me finish this point real quick.
Okay,
the guilds that want to stay small, control small, like a relatively small group of players, let's say 40, 50, 60, even 100 group of players, easily, and the ones that I would argue are going to be the most successful are going to be the ones who are going to be able to adapt to what damage type or specific builds your enemies bring into the battlefield. So let's say your enemy's bringing that, Ranger, Legolas, piercing, spec group. Well, then everyone who's the best PvPers or the smaller guilds who have the ability to what was it that I said, adapt to that situation are just going to switch over to their piercing of resistance build.
Okay. So here's what I say to that because I mean I saw you bring that up and how there's validity in that. And so smaller communities, we'll say, smaller to me is in the 40 to
teens.
50, well, I
That's
would
a
say
small group of
40,
people.
40 is probably the biggest a small community can be in terms of when you consider the scale of what I expect to see in Crowfall. Um, yes, a guild of 40 people can be able to log in alt accounts and adapt to situations immediately. That is true. It is fact. They can spend the money and they can do that if they want. Um, what I see, though, is that you said, oh, well, to grow beyond that limits the success of communities who have we'll say 150, 200 people, but in reality 150, 200 people would be able to outfit the same number of 40 people with whatever gear they needed to combat whatever 40 people the other group would be logging in on their alts. So in reality, you're able to adapt regardless based off of gear, not just what particular archetypes you're running with. And, we would be assuming that in these open field, large scale and type engagements that, a somewhat balanced attack is, traditionally been the best approach.
And here's the big thing: is if you're part of the Big Dick Guild and you have 30 accounts per person on your 40 people, and you can switch on the fly and this flexible and whatever. Sure, that'll probably change the way the game is played in that campaign. And then if I got stuck in that campaign, it's like, okay, well, there's a group of 30 people. They spend $100 a month on Crowfall. I know who they are. I'm just not going to go in their campaign anymore. I'm just going to leave. I'll go play somewhere else. That's fine with, and if that takes me away from all this other competition or whatever, so be it. I'll go enjoy my game somewhere else.
Well,
That's fine.
and we'll say we're going to assume that people want to remain in the we'll call it a top tier of competition. You know, damage protection is going to be related to your gear.
Sure.
What types of damage you're putting out is going to be related to your archetypes and how you build your individual characters. Certain elements of that are obviously not going to be easily changed. So you can still though provide different protection to different damage types by changing your gear. So in terms of we're going to log in all of our mages because we were going up against this group and they didn't have very much magic protection. They can log in all of their mages and we can change our armor to magic protection.
I mean,
See, the thing is, it's like when you're in like, let's say a Bane, right? The new Bane stone mechanic was kicked in, or a siege of some sort.
Yeah.
You're not the time it takes you to switch from okay, let's go to the bank, switch out our gear, put it on, then go back on the battlefield. Hopefully, they haven't destroyed our tree or our defenses at that point. I mean, it's gonna be 5, 10, 15 minutes plus. If you're man.
You don't understand. Valor's Guild is going to have mules of people running back and forth with gear and getting ready to change that shit out. There's going to be people literally just doing logistics.
It's
Just
banks.
to touch on that point right
It's
there.
banks.
Like, the problem with that is that instead of just allowing people to switch over from, let's say you have a bunch of group of Minotaurs, right, that are using slashing damage, and I want to go and attack you, and I was like, hey, I have my guys already logged in, let's see how this turns out. We go in there and attack, and we get stomped, right? Well, we'll just switch over to our ranged / snaring spec group, so even if you guys switch to piercing damage, our flying, ranged users are going to be able to fly.
Here's what I see, all right? And, I don't talk about what LOTD is going to do very much because, honestly, we don't know. The game's not out yet. But in a scenario where if you are sieging us, we are going to run a very balanced group of people. If you log off and for some reason are able to maintain pressure so that we don't instantaneously go out and destroy whatever your foothold is.
All of a sudden your whole castle has no people in it anymore.
So if somehow you don't lose whatever, your position is, and you log out and you log back in your new characters, we're going to assume that it would take 40 people, we'll say 5 minutes in general to log out, log back in,
orient yourself, get into position.
Supposedly be in position to still attack us. Say you logged out all of your accounts close by, then get organized, all of that. So in all of that amount of time, if we have not gone out there and completely annihilated you, one, that's our fault for not just reacting to opportunity. Two, we're still a balanced group. You're still attacking us. And if you would have been better, if you were better equipped to attack us with your other group of people, you would have done that to begin with because it would have been better. We are not changing anything. I mean, we're still a balanced group. We're still approaching this the same way we'd approach every siege, preparing for as much as we can. You can't outdo that. I mean,
I see your argument, and I think the perspective that you're coming from and Dragon was coming from is more of like a Zerg type of argument. And let me finish what I'm saying. Because in order to be balanced, let's say you're 40 versus 40 people, right? And you have a balanced group that's just, we have a balanced amount of damage for piercing and balanced amount of damage for slashing, and they're all equally balanced to resist almost every type of damage type. And if worst case scenario, we'll have half of our group, resisting.
So I'm going to stop you because I'm not going to have everyone like that. I'm going to have my front line, I'm going to have my melee, I'm going to have everyone spec'd for what they're going to be good at. And that's what people keep forgetting is that competent leadership is going to prepare their people for what they're going to be doing. You don't take into consideration what the other people are going to be doing, because if you take into consideration, they're going to bring all of these mages. Well, it doesn't matter if you have all of your melee with armor protection, because if you get rid of all of their physical damage protection, you could have like 5 guys in there with regular melee, and they're just going to destroy them. You present your guys for what they're going to be good at.
Well, that's where I'm heading to. That's what I was saying. So let's say you have your group. You have one group. That's what I was heading into. You have half of your group that's really more specialized towards melee. Half of your group that's specialized towards ranged and magic damage, and you play them how they're supposed to be played. Well, if you have your guys that are balanced like that, right? And you have another group of people that are specialized specifically, like we have our piercing damage debuffers with our range piercing damage, and then we have our mages that are just going to be snaring any melee that tries to get to our range. That's going to be a lot harder to defend against rather than another type of like equally balanced group. If you have a specialized group of individuals with the type of setup that I just mentioned, it's going to be hard to not counter that with specialized group that can counter that.
Right now, I mean, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Everybody hold on for a second. You're talking about, like, shifting metas and then, like, adapting and reshifting the meta all within a 4-minute period of logging out one character and logging in another character. I mean, like, honestly, what the fuck is going on here? I mean, like, seriously, this does not happen in online gaming. I mean, if you were a professional football player playing the NFL, doing everything about this game, that's the level of preparation you need for this. If you're gonna if you can actually pull it off, you should win everything in Crowfall. Go ahead and win everything, because that's all that matters.
Okay, hold on. That was the actual method in Shadowbane. If people
I don't
are saying
care
that Crowfall
about a method of a game with 50,000 people
let's
a decade and a half ago.
Let's stop, because you're bringing up Shadowbane, and you've brought up Shadowbane as an example to display some things, and in reality, Shadowbane, and this is from Todd himself, was not designed well. He says that. He didn't design Shadowbane well. That's why he's working on Crowfall, because he wants a redo. All right? So, Shadowbane, what people did in Shadowbane, and the way they used and abused those systems, is only applicable to a game that allowed for that. In a game like Crowfall, where you have the capability of building your characters in a variety of different ways and specializing them for what they're going to be good at, a competent leader is going to say, I'm going to have, of my 40 people, I'm going to have my 10 engagers, I'm going to have my 10 physical damage, I'm going to have my 10 magic damage, and I'm going to have my 10 support. All right, we're just throwing out numbers, it doesn't really matter. They're going to specialize what their people are good at. All right? Regardless of who you run into. If you ran into 40 rangers, the person who has the balanced group of 10, 10, 10, 10 they're not going to engage 40 rangers in a ranged combat.
Can we all
It's
just
going to come
remember the
down
fact
to-
that this game is a Twitch-based game and it's not
It's-
like
Yeah,
whatever? So
we're assuming the people who have
No,
80
no.
accounts between 40
No, 'cause
people
they're
are competent.
that's
and-
not
and
certainly
have, and
the
have
truth
leveled,
at all
and
against
have
any
leveled
game.
all 80 accounts equally to the people who have only been leveling 40 accounts.
Terrible
Well,
assumption.
horrible assumption, I agree. But
Terrible.
that being said, it comes down to playing your character and leading your group effectively. And that's why it doesn't matter. You could go from, we're bringing a balanced group to now we're bringing a magic heavy group, and it doesn't matter because a competent leader will only engage in fights that they can win.
Well, see, that's the whole argument there, though. Like, okay, so Todd mentions, right? So let's just,
Hold on a second.
I'm not
In,
talking
in your
about
scenario,
Shadowlands
how many
specifically.
people are in your group that have 5 accounts each?
How many people?
Yeah.
All you really need is 2 or 3 accounts. I mean, that's not
Okay,
really
so
much of an
everybody has
investment.
3 accounts.
But
So how many people in your guild have
All
3
right.
accounts and are actively training it to make this scenario work?
to make the scenario work,
Yeah, you're,
I mean,
you're saying
it's
that
not,
it's going to be a meta shifting thing. Like, so is it a guild of 20 people, 30 people, 40 people that are doing this? Is it 40 people coming together each with 3 accounts?
Okay, well, how many people do
we've-
I have, or how many ideally would you want?
We've
in your group?
actually
Both.
We've actually lost focus on the actual concept, and the general purpose of this whole discussion was, Dragon saying,
Fill up time on the Aftershow.
"This is not a realistic expectation
I
that
don't believe
that
I don't agree with
allowing people to run multiple alts in a campaign will prevent people from buying accounts."
And don't you
I'm not
think
saying
you're
that
going
it's
to
bad.
Ace is a small
buy
enough
account.
I say this. Look, I think this is what it's going to do. I think it's going to allow people. Okay, having multiple accounts allows you to adapt to a situation faster, and then also since
Maybe.
currently you could only maybe then fair enough, but currently you could only have one character passively training over time. You choose one of the 3, right? Unless you have VIP, then you can do up to 3. Well, personally, I think having multiple accounts is more valuable than having VIP because you can
Yes,
then passively train more than one.
100%.
So there's an incentive already there, aside from being able to,
Sure.
let's say, double dip in campaigns,
Yep.
right? Putting more stuff in your embargo with multiple accounts versus just your one, and then being able to play multiple characters depending on how you're feeling. Aside from all those other benefits, that are there, the benefit that you have is to be able to switch. More specifically, the higher benefit goes to the people defending. Is be able to switch in between one type of damage type or defense type to the other, right? The people who are being aggressive, right, and attacking you, it's going to be a lot harder for them because they're going to have to then run that account over to the engagement. But let's say you're being attacked, right, and then you realize, hey, these guys are attacking us with a specialized group, or they're more balanced in this way or that way, or they're more focused in this damage type. You can switch relatively quickly to a different type of character to defend on another account.
So I'm going
because
to
they're
cut you
already
off.
spawning in your city.
I'm going to cut you off. Yes, in some scenarios, and we could talk about this a million different ways. In some scenarios, it will be better. Now, will it be better enough to warrant 40 people spending $2,000? No. I don't see 40 people spending $2,000 so that they can log off, log back in, and then have the entire community say, "You guys are a bunch of scrubs because you couldn't beat us with your mains." So,
Well,
you know what?
here's
There
the
is.
thing. It comes back
It
to
is
this.
what it is, and even if you log in with your 40 other accounts, you're probably still going to lose because you're losing anyway.
Okay. So let's say
No,
let's
that's it.
Hold on.
I think
One
we're
more
good on
thing.
this one.
I
No.
didn't get a chance to talk on that
All right.
one last point that you
One-
mentioned.
one more-
Let me
one
just
more
touch on
point.
this, and
That's
that'll
it.
be
Go ahead.
Okay. I think that if the rules stay as they are, right?
Yeah.
One person per account per campaign,
Yeah,
one character slot per account per campaign.
sure.
If they stay as they are, people are going to do what you already mentioned. Both of you guys mentioned. You're going to have recruits where you're going to have mules that are going to be pulling in gear back and forth.
Sure.
You're going to have
Logistics.
people that to balance, right? Logistics. It's going to force guilds to turn more into a larger group or Zerg in order to stay balanced and have enough of a balance in multiple areas in the game.
Depends.
Versus,
It depends on how the game is designed. You can design
It depends
around
what you
all-
want to do.
all sorts of different things.
It depends on what
really
you want to
stay
do.
balanced,
But
and
the
have
game,
enough
what if the
characters
game is
to
not all
fulfill the
about
logistic.
sieging though, where you need to have that? Not necessarily. It could be about mobility. There could be like what's the one thing the first Bloodstone thing? There's all about mobility, like moving around fast. So you don't need logistics. So you don't need a Zerg. And this game's not going to be about. To me, it's a stupid. This is a giant fucking dumb what if goddamn question. But it's the after show, so I guess we're allowed. That, like, yes, if you can coordinate a bunch of people with 3 accounts, all spending the money on that, yes, you're going to have an advantage because you have options. That's great. How many people do you think are actually going to be doing that? There's going to be dozens of them.
And on top of just doing that, all right, not only are they spending $150 plus the VIP for each account, because if they don't, they might just not get into a campaign. So you might only get one account into a campaign. So you're spending VIP. VIP gives you priority access into campaigns. So that's
as in to be able to log into the campaign, or to actually be a registered character in there?
To be able to be a participant in a campaign from start to finish, or start. So that is another benefit of VIP. So you have all of this running, and on top of all of that, you have the flexibility. Now you have to be good at all 3 of those characters. Good luck finding enough people to fill all of that. All right, if you can find enough people to fill all of that, they've got the money. They've got, they're spending all of it. They've
and
got
the time
all the
to supply all those characters.
They've got the time. You've got all of the gear. You've got all of the crafting. And on top of all of that, they're competent at all of that.
Twitch gameplay.
All of their different
2
alts.
characters?
You said 3. We're going with 3.
Okay, 2 or 3 characters.
All right, 2 or 3 characters. Plus, they've been spending all of their time doing their own crafting because you don't have people doing that for you.
Your guild.
If you've got the time, if you've got the capability of doing all of that, you guys honestly should not be in Crowfall. You should be in an esport making money, because most people are not going to have that kind of time or those resources.
The vast majority of people are going to have one account and they're going to play the game.
And that's why you have the rules and restrictions that you have, because otherwise you make it easily accessible for just a random Joe to log in all of his accounts and abuse the same sort of systems that people are paying to abuse. So, all right.
I don't know. I don't think it's a source of abuse in that sense. I think it would be more balanced to allow everyone to be able to just switch from one character to the next.
No.
But
now it's an arms race. That's not money. It's now time.
It has been a fun conversation. I mean, as always, we expected it. We knew it was going to be fun.
We need more people to call in about these points on the forums.
Thank you for calling in the Nebrosity.
That's all good, bro.
when you find another good passionate topic, definitely bring it in. We'll tackle it another time.
Gotcha, Drake. See you later. Much love, guys.
Oh, hey, real quick. Posting pictures of other people, their real-life pictures on forums, is a bitch move. That being said, we'll see you next time.
She wasn't offended, though.
Doesn't matter. You never do that type of stuff.
All right, so he got kicked off this time. Maybe next time it won't be a big deal. But for the record. Anyway, guys, we got any other questions rolling in?
Anybody in chat? Questions?
Misconception.
I'm going to go eat some ice cream.
Players are not always the best gamers in the world. Just putting that out there. You know what?
That was just an offhand comment.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was it's reasonable. It's not they're not necessarily the best, but I give some respect out there. People put a lot of time into that. All right.
Too much.
Combat skills, build, cheese tactics, switching. Yeah, a lot of the rest of it was just in response to our conversation. So, yeah.
I think it's time to wrap.
Yeah, I'm good.
It's 10:30. We've been doing this for 2 hours.
Do something else.
All right, guys. Everything's being uploaded right now to YouTube. 1 minute left processing the first episode, so this is going to go up now. Once Lakes gets back, we'll do the audio on iTunes. Keep an eye out for that. Valor will update all the threads with all the pertinent information on where everything is. We'd love participation. Last caller was really good, so everybody else, if you've got a pet peeve or a topic you want to discuss, jump on the show. We'll hear you out. Other than that, have a great night, guys. See you next week, 8 o'clock in the morning. Later.
Peace, y'all.